the two new upcoming packages. Part one, the physical infrastructure package, which is $1.2 trillion, which the Senate is in the process of passing right now. And the next stimulus package, which will be the largest stimulus package yet to date, which is $3.5 trillion. The third stimulus check package was only $1.9 trillion. This one will be $3.5 trillion, or has been announced to be $3.5 trillion. Could be some negotiations on there. Could be a little bit less or a little bit more, somewhere around there. But it has been announced at $3.5 trillion. We have some major news from President Biden and the Democrats. Yeah, we're going to hear directly from them in this video. Actually, several different pieces of major news here today. A lot going on in Washington, D.C. Yeah, actually, some crazy news here, and things are literally changing by the hour. It's crazy how much stuff is going on in Washington, D.C. as they're trying to pass these packages. Now we're at 135,000 new cases per day. And now the Democrats are trying to scramble to get out stimulus as fast as possible. And we'll show you this new order by the president and what they did. Let's just jump in. I'll show you this first one that they just did that's going to affect millions of people, and what they're going to do next with more stimulus, and how they're going to try to get this out the door right away, and how we might see more executive orders coming out. Here we go. Okay, President number one here. Let's just start with this first one. President Biden and the Biden administration and the CDC have announced a new eviction ban, an eviction moratorium, what they're calling a targeted eviction ban. I'll explain what that means, which will be an eviction moratorium ban for millions of renters, which will be for the next 60 days. They have found a way around this, even though the Supreme Court just ruled days ago that the president could not do this through executive order, and the CDC could not do this. They have done this anyways. They have found a way around this, and they might be challenged in court. We were just talking about this yesterday, how they might be challenged in court, but to challenge them in court could take weeks or months, and effectively they might have found a way around this to protect millions of renters, millions of families that could be losing their place of rent, their home. And they may have just found a way to protect millions of people that are losing their home, their renters, or that are renters. Yeah, so they have extended the eviction moratorium for 60 days. As you can see here, CDC issues eviction moratorium extension after Democratic outcry.
And once we get a moratorium extension in place, we need governors and municipalities to get emergency rental assistance funds out. That is what the point of this moratorium is. It's to buy time. This is a huge victory for working families. This is a huge victory for the vulnerable, and it is a huge victory for the power of direct action and not taking no for an answer.
We are hopeful that it is what will help 11 million people stay in their homes, 6 million families to be secure in housing, where those children will be able to start school in the next few weeks and not have to worry about where they're going to sleep.
So there you go. 90% of the population of the United States, this order will apply to. The order will expire on October 3rd. It was issued after days of back and forth between the White House and the congressional Democrats over who was responsible for extending the moratorium, while scores of Americans face uncertainty about a potential removal from their homes. I also want to note that that lady that was speaking at the end of that video, she is a Democratic representative. Her name is Cori Bush. You can see here on the screen, she's a Democratic representative from the House of Representatives from Missouri. She literally slept on the steps of the House of Representatives at the Capitol, protesting that the eviction moratorium expired, especially after the House of Representatives failed to pass the eviction moratorium. Remember, they had an emergency vote where all the Republicans voted no to extend the eviction moratorium, and a few Democrats even voted no as well. It was like 90-some% of the Democrats voted yes, but a few Democrats voted no, and all the Republicans voted no, even if they would have passed it in the House, it would have had to go to the Senate as well, where they would have needed 10 Republicans to pass it as well. But I did want to say that I have to give her credit for literally going above and beyond her call of duty to for millions of Americans to stand out for what she believes is what is right. For millions of people who are going to potentially lose their place of stay, their homes, and she literally slept at the Capitol on the steps, and there's footage of her actually sleeping there. So she did actually do it. A lot of people were saying, we don't believe she did it. She actually did it. So yeah, if you believe what's right, put your money where your mouth is, and she actually did it. So and a lot of people credit her for actually getting the job done. And now the president actually, went ahead and did this new CDC order. I mean, this is, by the president. I mean, he directs the CDC to do this, even though the Supreme Court just ruled that they do not have the authority to do this. So now the Supreme Court could try to challenge them in a lawsuit, but we all know that takes time. That could take weeks or months. So this will provide the orders for 60 days. And remember, they could extend it even more after that. There could be a lawsuit going on there, and I'll keep you up to date on this. But they have now extended a new eviction moratorium or eviction ban for renters nationwide that will basically expected to help about 90% of renters nationwide. Now, the next thing is that Congress and Democrats is pretty much in emergency mode, okay? 5,000. You can actually see right here on July 5th, a month ago, the new cases were 4,590 cases, okay? The 7-day average was 18,000, but 4,500 cases. We'll round and say 5,000 cases, okay, a month ago, July 5th. The new cases for yesterday, August 3rd, was 149,000 cases now that they have updated. 149,788 cases. We'll round to 150,000 cases. 150,000 people in one day tested positive. Yeah, that's a lot of people. In comparison, so this was on August 3rd. Compared to August 3rd of last year, let's just go look at August 3rd of last year of 2020. Only 47,000 people last year tested positive. This year, 147,000, actual 149,000 people tested positive. So the Delta variant is more than twice as contagious. This is the problem we're dealing with right now. So the Delta variant is more than twice as contagious, and that's why the Democrats are scrambling. Really not. I don't know if I can even say the Republicans are scrambling to send out stimulus right now. Um, I don't even know if I could say that. Are Republicans scrambling to send out stimulus? No, I don't even think I could say that. No, they're not. But the Democrats are. So number one, they literally just, with just these cases just skyrocketing here within the last week, they've already just put this emergency plan together to put this eviction moratorium back in place. Okay, literally just expired 4 days ago, and all of a sudden, poof, they got this back in place. The next thing is Democrats are now scrambling to say, what are we going to do about this next stimulus package? We got to make sure there's stimulus checks, something in this next package. We got to pass this as fast as possible. And the next thing is that can they put some type of emergency checks out to the people? You even seen AOC say, okay, we got to emergency send out the rent assistance because that is already sent out. Remember, the third stimulus check package had like 40 or 50 billion dollars in rent assistance and mortgage assistance. But the problem is that the states are really dropping the ball on that. Okay. I'll link you to a video that I did recently on how to apply for rent assistance because it's going to take a few minutes, and I'll just link you to a video on how to do that. But number one, states may have to ease up on the qualifications for that. Number two, if you haven't applied for that, you should, because literally you could get your rent paid for up to 12 months. Okay. We have had viewers on this channel get their rent paid for 12 months. Literally $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 of rent assistance. Number three, we may see some emergency action here from the Democrats. And I say the Democrats because they're going to pass this next stimulus package all on their own through the reconciliation process, which is how they passed the third stimulus check package. So they may have to just literally pass it fast, like what are they doing? Just pass the package. I don't know what they're doing. Pass the package. Yeah, pass the package. Come on, bro. Like, pass package. Yeah, they're gonna pass the part one this week, and then Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer says they're gonna pass start voting on package two this week as well. Like, hey, everything is got to move even faster now. But here's the next thing I want to address, and I touched on this yesterday when I was saying it was almost like it was almost kind of like I had a prophecy, a preposition. That's not the right word. What is the right word when you have a you can see into the future a little bit. I can't even think of the word. Let me know if you know the word. You have like a prophecy, right? Yeah, prophecy. That's the right word. Where like you can see something coming from the future and then it happens. When I was talking about the Supreme Court and how that reporter asked about should they just extend the eviction moratorium anyways, and we were talking about that, and I was talking about how former President Trump did that presidential executive order with the stimulus checks for the unemployed people, the $300 per week. And lo and behold, just talking about that, like, was it yesterday or the day before? And President Biden did it. He extended the eviction moratorium. And now here's the next question. So, one, he did that. We were talking about that. It was just kind of like something that could happen, and poof, it happened. He extended the eviction moratorium, which is kind of it's a stimulus for those people because they're not going to lose their home. So, I mean, if you're going to lose your home and you were going to be evicted, by all means, that is a stimulus present or a stimulus gift, or I mean, it's not a check, but I mean, you're not losing your home at least temporarily. So, by all means, it's a stimulus provision. But here's the next thing I think that they could definitely do. Hear me out on this. And I drummed up an old article here from last year when former President Trump was president. It says what President Trump's $300 per week executive order means for unemployment compensation benefits. This is when President Trump, when he was president, of course, now he's former President Trump, this is when he did an executive order to basically send out stimulus checks, or unemployment checks, whatever you want to call them. They were stimulus to the people for $300 per week. Okay. This is, again, one of those controversial issues like President Biden just did literally last night and said, hey, I know the Supreme Court just ruled and said we can't do an order for eviction moratorium, but we're going to do it anyways. Okay. Former President Donald Trump did the same thing last fall. Everybody thought that they couldn't do an executive order for checks or stimulus checks, but former President Donald Trump did it anyways. Okay. He just happened to choose to do $300 per week checks for unemployed people. Okay. There were a total of $1,800. They were $300 per week for 6 weeks. $1,800 checks. He could have sent them to anybody. He could have sent them to senior citizens. He could have sent them to children. He could have sent them to everybody. He chose to send them to unemployed people. I don't know why he did. That's just what he happened to do. So the question is that now is rising out of control, and the Democrats are in emergency mode. And they're like, hey, we just did this thing that the Supreme Court told us not to do. The Supreme Court told us not to do an emergency order to extend the eviction moratorium. We just did it anyways. And we're basically saying, hey, if you don't like it, Supreme Court, sue us. And we'll challenge it in court and we'll battle it out in court for several weeks. And worst case scenario, you can overrule us and say, okay, we shouldn't have did that. And then a month or two from now, we'll say, all right, the eviction moratorium is overturned. That was that. And then the eviction moratorium will no longer stand. And then people will have gotten rental protection for another month or two, right? Okay, people got protection, and then the eviction moratorium's over. Okay, or they might get protection for the full 2 months, or it might get extended again, right? They'll have to battle it out in court, right? Just like these unemployment battles going on, right? Republican governors are kind of doing the same thing. They just kind of said, nope, we don't like this, and said, if you don't like it, sue us. Okay, and these lawsuits are going on right now. Well, if former President Donald Trump could do an eviction moratorium, if former President Donald Trump could do a presidential executive order for checks, stimulus checks, unemployment checks, any type of checks, if he could send you a check for $1,800 It was $300 per week for 6 weeks. It was a total of $1,800. In an emergency, which is what he considered, could the Democrats right now, during an emergency, which is literally what they're saying, right now is an emergency, COVID's going crazy. We had 150,000 new cases yesterday. Wait till today's numbers come out. They're going to probably be higher than that. We're going to probably hit 200,000 new cases in one day by the end of this week. Cases are literally going like that. Remember, they're 3 times higher than they were this same day a year ago. 3 times higher. And that's with. So I think if the government wanted to, if the Democrats wanted to, the Democrats are in control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they could do anything they wanted right now. They could pass this next stimulus package. They could include stimulus checks. They can include Social Security raises. They can include emergency stimulus checks. They could include an executive order for checks, just like former President Donald Trump did. And don't tell me they couldn't, because former President Donald Trump did. I have it in black and white, and you guys all remember it. I mean, especially if you got the money last year. If you were one of those lucky people to, well, you might not consider yourself lucky if you lost your job on unemployment. But if you got that extra bonus money, you were like, hey, thank you. That was pretty cool. But I actually still firmly believe that any president, whether you're former President Donald Trump and you were president last year, or if you're President Biden this year, because former President Donald Trump set the precedence. If he can do an executive order and send out stimulus checks, and the Democrats didn't challenge him then in court of lawsuit, because again, it would make them look really bad to challenge them in a court of lawsuit, saying, okay, well, he just sent out checks to millions of people to help them out in their time of need. Should we challenge them in court? Of course not. We can't challenge them in court. We would look like the worst party ever. So again, Biden could do that right now. He could send out an executive order. The problem is they have to fund it, right? They have to take the money from the lost it there. They have to use the money from somewhere. Trump used the disaster relief fund. Okay, Biden has to pull it from some fund. Okay, so again, they got funds everywhere, right? They got billions of dollars. Janet Yellen just said they have $450 billion. Okay. So yeah, what they have to do is they have to use it from $450 billion somewhere in there. And also they have to pass the debt ceiling. So again, get on your horse, pass the debt ceiling, and do what you got to do. Either do an executive order, pass checks with an executive order, or just pass the damn stimulus package. And make sure you include stimulus checks, monthly stimulus checks, Social Security raise, whatever you got to do. We're in emergency mode here, guys. 150,000 new cases. A month ago, we had 5,000 new cases. Now we're at 150,000, and it's getting worse. We're going to be at 200,000 in like 2 days. You tell me. You tell me. It's getting crazy here, guys. It's getting crazy. I don't even know what to say. By the end of every episode, like, it's getting so crazy here that I don't even know what to do here at this point. Yeah, they need to pass these packages, and they need to include more and more stimulus. Thank God that this next stimulus package has been announced at $3.5 trillion, and it's not one of these mini stimulus packages like the second stimulus check package was. Remember when they were negotiating between the Republicans and the Democrats, and they're like, oh, we have to keep it under 1 trillion. And somehow they actually managed to fit a stimulus check in there. Remember when they did that? And Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley were like, we're going to fit a stimulus check in there, but we're going to take the money away from the states and cities, but we're going to keep it under 1 trillion. I'm like, what? This next stimulus package is 3.5 trillion. Package is 3.5 trillion. Package is 3.5 trillion.